Well, tonight, Donald Trump is blaming Mike Pence for the Trump mob's violent attack on the Capitol on January 6th. Yes, you heard right. Donald Trump is blaming the guy who the Trump mob said they wanted to hang. Donald Trump's blaming him for the mob who wanted to hang him on January 6th. What Donald Trump said about Mike Pence today will be Exhibit A at Donald Trump's trial if he is charged with crimes about January 6th, according to our first guest tonight, former federal prosecutor Andrew Weissmann. Donald Trump was responding today to comments made by Mike Pence on Saturday night in Washington at the most formal event that occurs in Washington and has been occurring in Washington annually for 138 years, the Gridiron Dinner. It is one of those ultra cozy events hosted by prominent members of the Washington Press Corps who do not allow press coverage of their own event, of course, in which the women always wear evening gowns and the men are required to dress not like it's the Oscars, not in black tie, because that's not formal enough. Good enough for the Oscars, but not the Gridiron Dinner. Black tie is not good enough. The men have to dress in white tie and tails. Our account of the Gridiron Dinner tonight will, of course, come from our favorite Washington guest who always has his white tie and tails costume hanging in the closet and ready to go, Neil Katyal, who was there Saturday night when Mike Pence, in what no doubt passed for bravery in Mike Pence's mind, said in a room where cameras and recording devices were banned, history will hold Donald Trump accountable. Mike Pence was talking about the January 6th attack on the Capitol. Mike Pence said, tourists don't injure 140 police officers by sightseeing. Tourists don't break down doors to get to the Speaker of the House or voice threats against public officials. And here is the line that Mike Pence probably plans to use someday on the Republican primary debate stage in his losing presidential campaign against Donald Trump. Mike Pence said, President Trump was wrong. I had no right to overturn the election, and his reckless words endangered my family and everyone at the Capitol that day, and I know that history will hold Donald Trump accountable. Mike Pence does not apparently care that a federal grand jury is trying to hold Donald Trump accountable right now for what happened on January 6th, and would like Mike Pence's testimony to help them decide who should be held accountable. But Mike Pence is refusing to testify to that grand jury because he is Mike Pence, a name that will always be synonymous with the most astonishing, duplicitous weakness on display in Washington in the first quarter of the 21st century. When a Washington Post reporter asked Donald Trump for his reaction to Mike Pence's comments today, Donald Trump said, had he sent the votes back to the legislatures, they wouldn't have had a problem with January 6th. So in many ways, you can blame him for January 6th. Had he sent them back to Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, the states, I believe, number one, you would have had a different outcome, but I also believe you wouldn't have had January 6th, as we call it. The Trump mob was attacking the Capitol before the first challenge was made to the Electoral College vote count on January 6th. Donald Trump, not unreasonably, sees Mike Pence's change of tone about him as simply a presidential campaign choice. The Washington Post quotes Donald Trump saying, I guess he figured that being nice is not working, but, you know, he's out there campaigning and he's trying very hard and he's a nice man. I've known him. I had a very good relationship until the end. The end of that relationship for Donald Trump came on the phone on January 6th when Mike Pence told Donald Trump once again that he was not empowered by the Constitution with any discretion about how to process electoral votes on January 6th. Donald Trump's last word to Mike Pence was wimp.
I remember hearing the word wimp. Either he called him a wimp. I don't remember if he said, you are a wimp, you'll be a wimp. wimp is the word I remember.
In defendant Trump news, we can report to you with absolute certainty that the Manhattan District Attorney will not indict Donald Trump tomorrow or the next day. After that, your guess is as good as mine. Donald Trump's former hush money broker, Michael Cohen, testified to a Manhattan grand jury today about the hush money that he paid to actress Stephanie Clifford, also known as Stormy Daniels, in the final weeks of the 2016 presidential campaign to purchase her silence about the night that she says she had sex with Donald Trump in a hotel room very briefly, 4 months after Donald Trump's current wife gave birth to Donald Trump's youngest child. Michael Cohen's attorney, Lanny Davis, said this.
Michael has spent a long and productive afternoon, I'll speak for him today, answering all questions, all facts, and completely responsive. He's coming back on Wednesday at approximately 1:30 or 2 o'clock to complete his testimony. We're not going to make any comments about what he said other than to repeat what Michael has said. This is about accountability, and this is about facts and the truth, period. The presumption of innocence, if anything happens, prevails and applies, and we're happy to cooperate.
So, with Michael Cohen returning to the grand jury on Wednesday, that gives us the absolute certainty that Donald Trump will not be indicted until at least Thursday, if he is to be indicted at all in that case. The Manhattan District Attorney offered Donald Trump a chance to testify to that same grand jury himself, something that is a standard offer from New York District Attorneys to criminal targets who face the possibility of indictment by that same grand jury. Donald Trump's lawyer in the case said this morning that Donald Trump refused the opportunity to testify under oath to the Manhattan grand jury. So, at this point, the only way Donald Trump is going to enter the courthouse in Manhattan on this case is if he has to appear for the first time in his life as criminal defendant Trump.